Hey guys, Moneyman300, and I got another tips and tricks video here. It was a little short on the videos last week, so hopefully we can pick it up this week. Had just one of those weeks with work was a little more demanding. Spent a lot more time with work and just didn't have time to get much video game playing in. Had a busy weekend with the kids and like gymnastics and baseball and basketball and all kinds of stuff going on. So we're back on it this week, starting with the tips and tricks video, and this one's going to be all about how I set my gear ratio and how I get a base one set and then how I kind of dial it in or try to dial it in for there. But yeah, I just want to go through that process and show. The car I'm using is a B-Class RX-7, which once I'm done tuning this, and I'm not yet, I kind of just started on it, then I'll do a video on this because it's cool. I think it's a cool car. I love this paint job. This is, if you recognize it from the movie Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, not a great movie. If you've seen it, you probably know what I'm talking about. But I love this car from that movie, this RX-7, and this is a replica paint job that somebody put out there that I grabbed. So I don't even know who to give credit for this, but I didn't make it myself. I got it off of the downloaded it. So, but yeah, let's get in. Let's take a look. First things first, you got to have adjustable transmission. So let's go over and take a look at this. Get into our transmission area, and you need at least the sport transmission. And what that's going to do for you is give you the adjustable final drive ratio. If you need to go in and adjust each individual gear, then you need a race transmission. I don't do much adjusting of individual gears. To be honest, I'm not good enough to know what to adjust. Every once in a while, if you got maybe one gear that feels a little tall or a little short and you want to just space them out a little differently, then I would use the race transmission, but it's rare. More often than not, I'm going to be in the sport transmission area, save the extra 2 or 3 PI, use it on some horsepower, some tires, something else that makes more sense. And then I'll use stock transmission a lot because a lot of times that works out best. As you can see in this case, saved me about 10 PI, which I can really get a fair amount of horsepower out of. So, but right now we're using this one, so let's go in and take a look and see how we start with our base on this. Alright, so get over here to our gearing. So I may have already dialed this in, so because the process I normally go to, generally what you'll see is they start pretty low, and I don't know what the default was for this one. I really don't have any idea, but you'll see them start down here, maybe 310, 320, 330, and usually we're going to go higher with it. And the number that I'm looking at is this. I'm going to tune off the 0 to 100 number most frequently, and I largely ignore the top speed, although I want to use it a little bit as a reference point if I have a huge drop off, and I'll show you what happens and what to look for in that. But what I'm looking for is the best 0 to 100 number. I want acceleration, and to me 0 to 100 does that, and the 0 to 60 usually goes right along with that, and you can see that as the numbers change. But if we say, for instance, that we started at 320 here, and then from 320, let's see, we look at our number here, it is 124. So usually I'm going to adjust up, and I'll usually just start bumping it up maybe 15 or 20 and see what it does. You'll see that number 10030, so it's going down. So then I'll go to like 3, I might go up to like 3.6, still going down. We're down to 9.9, and then let's go even to about 3.8. 10, so now it went up. So now I went past a point where somewhere in there was a peak that I went past. So what I'll do is come down maybe 10 off of that and see what we had. And now we're down 9860, so maybe 5 more. Can I get under that? 98. So now it's going back up. So now I'm going to go back up to about that 375 range. Kind of a, I don't know if you're familiar with IT terms, it's kind of like a bubble sort. You're bouncing back and forth until you get to that optimal number, and right there, so now it's up. So somewhere in between 365 and 375. So I'm just going to go about 37 and start going up. You see it the same still, 986. There it went to 9841, and then up. So based on that number right there gives me the fastest 0 to 100 time. So that would most likely be my starting point for this tune. Now I don't know what it did to the, if I go back into the 320, what it did for my 0 to 60 time. That was 4381. Doesn't change much. 4381. So yeah, it's a 4364. You actually have a little, looks like a 4381, maybe even a little faster 0 to 60 time here, but Like I said, I tune for the 0 to 100, especially on a car like this. It's going to be a little faster. 372 is where that landed. And then the other thing you might see sometimes is there might be a number way on the higher end. Like if I got up in here to like 4.2, that could be the same or even lower. So you want to check on the higher end of these also. You see here 10.2. It's not really happening. You know, if I get up in here, it's going down a little bit. 10.218, 10.2.124. You know, it's still going down, but now look what's happened to my top speed, though. This is where I want to use that as a little bit of a reference point. It's all the way down to 135, and if you look at the chart, the gears are really short, and I'm going to wrap through them way too fast. So I already know that isn't going to work, so we're going to go back to that 372 number because I believe that is optimal. So we'll get back in there. So that's one place to look, so I'm going to go ahead and apply that. Might have been what it already was because I dialed it in before, but that's the process of how I get to set that base. And then something you want to look at and always be mindful of is where the power curve is on your engine. So I'm going to get out of here, and you can see that. Well, I'm going to have to go to the engine itself. So you go over to your engine that you have in here, and it's in your conversion area. And let me see which engine swap we have in here. So there we go. So I can see that the line I'm looking at is the green line. So I'm looking at my horsepower, and I want to know the RPMs that has my peak horsepower. And you can see this is one of those that's very linear, goes straight up, so your peak horsepower is going to be at your highest RPM. So this is going to be one of those a car that you want to run at the highest RPMs, meaning that when I tune that gearing ratio, I want to tune it to get to the highest RPM, meaning I want to get on my longest straight, I want to be at the highest RPMs at the end of that. So I want to be in the, so if we got 4, 5, you know, in the 6,000 range is where I hit peak horsepower. So if I'm getting up to that 6,000 range, by the end of the longest straightaway, I think I'm going to be tuned pretty well. So next thing we'll do is let's go drive this thing and see what it looks like. I'm going to take it out to Spa out here. We'll get this loaded up real quick. And the other thing I'll do, and instead of skipping the loading, I'll talk through this, but the other thing you can do is you want to drive it for a couple of laps. I'm just going to drive it through the longest straightaway to see kind of how it feels. And I'm using this track because I'm building more of a speed tune, but if you were, you know, maybe building something for the Catalunya school or something like that, you want to look at they're obviously going to be much smaller. Your gear ratios are going to look a lot different in there. So let's get this going here. This car's pretty quick. Cut that down in there. But yeah, you really want to drive it for a couple of laps. You know, you feel like you might have that long straightaway dialed in, but you want to know how it's shifting through each of the turns, because you may have the long straightaway dialed in, but you may want to run, you know, you may not like the gearing you have. Ooh, don't hit the wall already. Woo. And the other thing is since I didn't come off of that turn very well, it's not going to give me a great read on this straightaway because I didn't get on it as quickly as I would have liked to have. But I'll get a good feel for it. You can see I'm hitting 6,000 right there, so that's pretty good. So yeah, so it's good on that long straightaway. And then what I do from here is I drive it around the track a couple of times and see what it feels like just shifting gears through the tracks. Because like I said, you don't want to get in between gears on like a longer sweeper turn. You want to be able to run a consistent gear through your turns and not be stuck shifting in the middle of your turns, and you want to feel comfortable with the gears you're running at. So sometimes that's even more important than where you're at on the straightaway. But yeah, that's where I'd start with this, and I'll stop that here. That should give you a good base place to start your gearing tunes at, and then from there you could I could get it set up for this track, save that off, and then go over to like a Road Atlanta similar that has a long straightaway and see if that works there, and maybe even adjust it a little bit one way or another off of there. You know, maybe I needed to go a little bit higher because I wasn't reaching the RPMs and my peak power at the end of that straightaway, or a little lower if I was wrapping it out. That would even be worse because now I'm done if I'm all the way wrapped out. And then I'd save that for Road Atlanta. Now I'm not going to do that for every track, but I might have, you know, one or two that are just a little bit different gear ratios that give me that optimum speed on the longest straightaway. So, yep, I hope that helps. That's exactly how I would go through and set up my gear ratio. And so I'm going to end it with this one. And I should have a few more videos this week. So got this tips and tricks here. Should have at least one more tips and tricks and hopefully 2 tuning videos this week. Maybe even this car, if I can get this dialed in and pretty good. I think it'll be a fun car to drive. And I have a B-Class Subaru BRZ. I know the C-Class one was popular, and it's really good. And I have a B-Class one that's really good also that I'm going to put up on there. So yeah, should be a good week for videos. And anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.